Force on Force features the largest and strongest outdoor military organization in the country. These are the men and women who make it possible to enjoy the freedom to hunt and fish. It is with great pride that we bring you Force on Force podcast, coming to you from the Force on Force Talk.
Hey, welcome to the Force on Force podcast. We're here in the Force on Force Talk. All our shows start in the Talk, the Tactical Operations Center, and we start a podcast here. This is an awesome, exciting thing we're doing with Force on Force brand, with the Army Buck, Bass, and Hog. Going with the podcast this year. We're really enjoying talking a lot of things from our partners to what's happening on the TV show. It's been a lot of fun. This week's going to be really cool. We'll talk a little bit about it here in a minute. Recapping kind of where we're at. Force on Force is going on right now on the Sportsman's Channel and then the World Fishing Network. We got the semifinal round this week. You know, we got how that's going to roll out. It's airing today on the Sportsman's Channel. If you miss it, you can catch it 11 a.m. on Saturday morning. And guys, last week you got to meet our new pro staff members, Craig, Ty, and Rick Bradley. So a lot of good stuff going on. I think this is probably a really exciting show for us because I get to bring on one of our longest and oldest partners, Skeeter Boats. We're going to bring on the brand manager from Skeeter, Chris Brown, and it's very exciting to have Chris on here. How you doing, Chris?
I'm good, Sean. How are you, bud?
Good. So Chris has got a lot of history in the fishing industry. If you don't know Chris, you've probably seen him, his work in some shape or form or fashion, you know, whether it's been with Rigid Industries to, I met Chris really firstly on the Alabama Bass Trail when he was doing the stuff on the production side behind the scenes. And then I was so excited when he came to be part of like the Skeeter family is kind of this past year and a half. And so it's kind of awesome to see him. And I think I read somewhere where you shared, I think one of my funniest things that I've read about you is that you're the guy that told Brandon Palahniuk, no.
That's going to come back and haunt me forever. I'm the guy that told, that declined on Brandon. I started my career back in 2002 at Strike King Lure Company and worked my way up to marketing director there. And it's probably, I don't even remember what year it was, 2010, 2011. I got an email from this kid from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho that wanted to be on pro staff. And I'm like, I don't even know where Coeur d'Alene, Idaho is. You know, I had to look at a map. And so I'm like, what am I going to do with a kid in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho? Especially a kid, I can't even pronounce his last name, right? I mean, so I knew he was fishing the Bass Nation, doing some things. And so I just wrote him back and I said, dude, look, I would love to do something with you, but we're full right now. Stay in touch. And if you need anything, I can send you some baits. But right now we're just kind of at capacity. And so he always reminds me of that because while that didn't work out when I was at Strike King, we were very quick to, I remember going to the Classic the next year and he finished like fourth, I think, in that one in New Orleans, and Van Dam won it, and he was fishing the same area Van Dam was. And I remember seeing this kid at takeoff going, gosh, I recognize that name from somewhere. What do I know that name? And then I'm like, oh crap. And it hit me. It's like, that's the kid, right? So here I am. I'm the guy that passed on Brandon Palahniuk, and yet he and I are very good friends. We talk all the time, and I've been blessed to work with him through Rigid and my little time at Bass and now with Skeeter. And of course, when I was doing the media thing, when you and I met the last, up until I came to Skeeter, worked with Brandon a lot there. He was kind of a go-to for us. So yeah, it's been that's going to be my legacy, I think, in this industry, Sean, is telling Brandon no. I think that'll be it. But now I control his contract at Skeeter. So it's kind of come full circle for me, I think. So it's been pretty good. But
yeah, so Skeeter's is one of our longest partners at Army Bass Anglers, and what we kind of do and kind of where this whole thing kind of started and gone a long way. And so I think that's why it's kind of special to bring you guys on as kind of the first partner to kind of, as we talk the podcast piece and kind of the background and everything. But as this thing started, from the Force on Force brand on TV 13 years ago and the impact it's made to service members, it's just been really cool. You're seeing you come back because I was kind of worried, all the changes are going to happen, a year and a half ago, and I was taking over ownership of Army Bass, and And I'm like, all of a sudden I find out Chris Brown's going to be the brand manager at Skeeter. And it's funny thing, Chris and I live like, not even like a couple miles from each
I
other
know.
while I was in Huntsville stationed back there at Redstone. And so I'm like, things have a way of working them out. And I think that's what's really cool about the fishing industry and just about, man, I've been very blessed in this industry to meet a lot of very good people in here, and Skeeter makes it feel like a family ordeal. And I think as we talk about the relationship with Skeeter, it's just very family atmosphere, and I think you guys do a really good job of that.
Well, Sean, you and I have met when I lived in Huntsville, and so we lived there for 13 years, my wife and I. And so for me to pack up, right, a year and a half ago, pack up my family. I've got a kid at Auburn, two kids at Auburn, actually. And so for me to leave, drove 600 miles away from them and come to Texas, the only reason I did it was because of Skeeter and the family that's here. And I have run Skeeters and Yamahas in the past and been associated with these guys and knew a lot of these folks. So when they called and said, hey, we've got an opportunity for a job, would you be interested? I jumped at the chance. I think I drove most of the night one night to get here for a job interview, and it was very excited to get here. And I'm still excited to be here. Of course, I came in under Joanne O'Brien, who is since retired and gone to be a grandmother. And I see her on Facebook. She's traveling all over the place. And so I had a pretty good mentor in Joanne for a number of years prior to coming to Skeeter. And so now that I'm here, it's been everything I'd hoped for and more. So it's very exciting, and it's a great time to be part of Skeeter Boats. That's for sure. So.
And then we kind of talk about family. I think that kind of segues in. We kind of want to talk about the owners tournament. That's a lot of fun. I think when I first came to Army Bass, one of my first big deals that I ever did coming in was coming to the owners tournament, and that's what kind of made it feel, and that's why I use the term family, made it feel like a big family deal. And I think that's what is so fun. And this one's going to be no different than anything we've had, because this is the 30th annual, if I'm correct.
30th annual Skeeter Owners Tournament. My first one was in 2013 when I worked for Rigid. And when I worked for Striking, I always sent baits, I always sent stuff for giveaways. I never got to come to one. And in 2013, when I worked for Rigid, we actually bought a Skeeter boat. If you've ever been to the factory here in our main office, we used to have boats kind of on display here in our main foyer. And when I worked for Rigid, we became a bass sponsor, and we bought a boat off the showroom here at Skeeter, which you can't do most any other day, but for some odd reason, Joanne sold us one at that time. So we bought it, right? And so we got to come to the owners tournament. And I just remember walking into that big tent and thinking, this is going to be a circus. And it is the biggest family reunion that you've ever seen. And I will tell you what, we build a lot of really pretty, I'll go as far as we say we build some really sexy boats, right? If you're ever wondering what color to make your Skeeter, come to an owner's event and just sit there and walk the bank and look, because by God, there is every shape, color. I mean, you name it. If you want one that's yellow, there's going to be one that's yellow there. If you want a purple one, there's going to be purple. They're everywhere. So you're in for a real treat if you've never been to one. But the 30th annual, and we've got a number of folks that have fished every single one of these, and they're very quick to remind me, hey, I've been to 29 of these now, going on 30. So these folks are committed to this deal. Our registration numbers to date are on point with last year. So we're fully expecting over 2,000 Skeeter family members there, and, over 1,000, 1,100 boats for this event. That first full weekend in June, the second weekend in June, the 6th through the 9th, there at Lake Fork Marina. So we're excited about it. My team's been working on this since January, trying to get everything put together amidst boat show season and everything else. So we're very excited about it and ready to get this one going for sure. So ready to see everybody. So
I know I would say seeing all the different boats is really cool. One of the coolest things was last year, being the 75th anniversary of Skeeter, is getting to see that was the original
Yeah, so we have boat number 8 that's
Eight.
here in our lobby. Yeah, boat number
Yeah.
8. And it's actually owned by a gentleman here in Longview, and his son or grandson owns a 2022 FXR 21. So we had them side by side out here at the plant one day for a meet and greet with some media. But we take that with us to a number of shows. It'll be out there again this year. With boat number 8. So you look at, if you ever wonder why a Skeeter is called a Skeeter, that right there will explain it to you really fast, because that thing looks like the nose of a mosquito. And so but that's what it was built to do. It was built to go in through the cypress trees and all that stuff in Louisiana and all the swamps. And the cool thing is there's a lot of processes that was back then that we've enhanced and put into the boats we build now. And so it's pretty impressive deal.
Yeah, so my first owners tournament was the dealer brought me my Skeeter to the owners tournament, my very first Skeeter. So that's where I got my Skeeter, was at the owners tournament. And so they actually delivered it to me, brought it to me at the owners tournament. And so it was a lot of fun. So I always have a lot of fun memories about getting that first Skeeter right there at the owners tournament. So there's a lot of fun, a lot of cool stuff, memories that go on there at Lake Fork. And so I think that's really a cool event that's looked forward to by everybody that's involved. I know, we enjoy it, from everything from filling the bags. Everybody doesn't know how all those bags get filled. That's always been a big part of what we help with the Army Bass Anglers. We show up and help you guys fill those bags the day before registration starts and getting all that going. Yeah, so it's neat how all that stuff kind of gets worked out. We get all that done in one morning and get it knocked out, and it gets going. So it's a lot of fun.
Last year was my first year to really be on the setup side of things, and I remember we made 2 trips with 3 trucks from Kilgore to Lake Fork Marina. And it's about an hour drive one way from my office to the marina. And we made 2 trips each with 3 trucks pulling trailers and boats, and still had more stuff coming throughout the week. And I thought to myself on Tuesday morning, we got up and it was, already 932 degrees. And I thought, we are never going to get this thing put together. But with, help from you guys and your staff, and of course the Bass Champ guys and so many others, this thing comes together and it happens. And it is a crazy, crazy deal. And what's funny is it takes us 3 days to put it up and 3 hours to tear it down. So it comes down a whole lot faster than it ever went up, but it's a lot of fun. And, we have a lot of pride in this event, obviously 30 years work. And, the owners that come to this, seeing new owners, past owners that are, some are still running early 2000 or late 90s model Skeeters, and they come to this event. We've got people that have just bought a new Skeeter going on our sales promotions going on right now, and just bought one, and we give them, invitation to this thing, and they show up and they're going to be blown away. That's the cool part, is there's no other boat company that does it quite like we do. And especially on the banks of Lake Fork, where, any cast could be a double-digit fish, on Fork. I mean, things change. I mean, you look at what the elites did here back in May, and things can change so fast. And, it's been historically known that, the winner of this deal, that big fish is caught usually in that first half of the first day on Saturday morning. And I hate to be that poor soul that has to sit on that fish all weekend long, praying it doesn't get beat. And I think the gentleman that won it last year, he come real close to getting beat in that last hour. I don't remember that or not, but really close to getting beat in that last hour. But it was cool. And then the young man that won the under last year, the under slot fish, that fish should have been a slot fish, but it hadn't. The tail had been bitten off of that fish, so he got lucky in that one. And a lot of, not drama, but a lot of, am I going to get a ticket on this, or am I going to get a boat out of this deal? What's it going to be? So he was a little stressed.
I do. I always found that funny, because the Texas game wards are always standing right there at the bump board station. I mean,
well, we laugh. We had a meeting a couple of weeks ago, and something was said about security and what was our plan for crowd control. And I laughed. I said, look, we're on Lake Fork. There are 15 game wardens standing behind the stage at any one time. I am not worried about crowd control or security. Those guys will handle it for us. It'll be good. And yeah, that poor kid, he called game board and said, look, here's what I got. Send him a picture. And they said, bring it in. And he was quick to say, I'm not going to get a ticket, Emma. And they're like, no, bring it in and we'll take care of it. And I just remember when he came in, everybody kind of rushed the bump tank at one time just to see what was going on. And I thought, God, this better be a big fish. And it turned out to be like a 302, under the slot fish. And it's like, but at the same time, that lake little, it can make you a hero, or it can really hurt your feelings pretty fast. And so it's always a great event. It's a fun event. For us, it's about our owners. And that's really what it's all about, is that experience for our owners, the prizes. The duck prizes are back. We'll have 30 ducks, I think, or 50 ducks. I think it's 30 ducks across the lake this year. We've gone as far as to even get duck T-shirts for our duck staff to give out ducks this year. So we're all in, dude. We're excited and ready to give away some money and a brand new boat. We've got a 2024 FXR 20, the Apex, that'll be given away to the over the slot winner. The under slot winner will get a new Yamaha side by side this year. And of course, we got our boatload of toys that we do every year. And we made, I don't know how many kids, but there was a bunch. I had to bag all them toys up myself out of that big saltwater boat last year. And we made a bunch of kids happy last year for Christmas. So thanks to our owners. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff that goes on, a lot of good food, a lot of good times, a lot of good vendors. You guys are out there. I've got a whole host of vendors that'll be out there on site this year. So really excited about the event this year.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Just I always look forward to. It's a big part of what we look forward to coming and being a part of every year because of the big family atmosphere and enjoying it. Just an awesome experience to be out there. I know if you don't have a Skeeter boat right now, I know you guys are running some awesome rebate programs going on right now. I know that I think this is like, I hadn't seen these type of rebates since I came back from deployment since like 2008 time frame, up to $6,000 rebates that you guys are running right now, so some good times all the way through the end of May to get opportunity. If you don't, you need a new boat to go out there and take advantage of it. We just picked up a new FXR 2 days ago. Brent just sent me pictures of it. Came with it to the Blackbeard Marine there in Oklahoma. He picked it up 2 days ago. So, it's good time to be taking advantage of getting a new boat out there with the deals they got going on out there. And it's a really cool deal. So, for us, that time frame is always a little bit busy because the week just prior to it, we have the Patriot Sporting Challenge, which you guys are always a big part of that. You guys give us side by side to help sponsor that event, and that goes to support Folds of Honor. And if you were at the Bassmaster Classic, and part of that, they did a big deal with Folds of Honor at the Bassmaster Classic, and just how that goes to support veterans and deceased veterans, kids, give them scholarships and stuff to go to college. And so it's really appreciative what you guys kind of do with that to help kind of make that happen. And that's a lot of fun. That event is a great event. If you're coming in and want to come in a week early, we found out about the Patriot Sporting Challenge. That's also an awesome time to do. Just take advantage of the weekend prior to the owners tournaments, a golf and fishing event that takes place. And that's always been kind of a fun. So I always have an action-packed week, but probably the time that I have the most fun out of my Skeeter boat, Chris, is the week and a half prior to that. We get to bring in the West Point bass fishing team from the cadets from West Point for the college national championship. And I've had to deal with them for the last 6 or 7 years. For every time they fish the national championship, I provide the boat for them to come in and fish. And so I don't know many college kids that I would give a brand new Skeeter boat to and turn the keys over to and just say, here you go. And that it's not just me, but, Sergeant Major Tagger, we just got through setting up ABA 7. That's the boat we're going to use this year. And with his FXR 21, I think it's probably going to have about 7 hours on it when we give him the keys to this boat. But it's a fun time. you're taking the future officers, leaders of the United States Army, and it's a time that we use the boat as a teaching tool to teach outside the classroom lessons that they'll never forget. And I think that's what's really cool. A lot of people don't understand whether you're loading a helicopter, a gun truck, a tank, or a bass boat. Load plans are always the same.
Right.
And so we take that. And so it's been a fun. I think my favorite story was last year we were in South Carolina at Lake Hartwell, and I had my, brand new FXR 21, and it had barely had 10 hours on it. And I'm walking the two cadets around the boat, giving them a lay down, how everything works, what to do and everything else. And they got the wide-eyed, and so I asked him, I said, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "Sir, I'm just so nervous. I don't want to mess up your boat, man." I asked him, and I'd like to put this into perspective for the listeners all the time. I asked him, I said, "Son, what are you going to do for the Army?" And he said, "I'm going to fly helicopters." And I said, "All right, man, let's figure this out." I said, "We're going to give you a $10 billion airframe." I said, "You'll be okay."
Right.
I said, "Take it." And I said, "Enjoy yourself." And I said, "Use this as a teaching tool to what it's going to feel like that time, the first time you step in that airframe." And I said, so that to me is what it's worth. And that's why I say this whole 3 weeks from West Point to Patriot Sporting Challenge to the Owners Tournament, that really week and a half to 2 weeks is just an awesome time that I get to really spend time, and it's all revolves around the Skeeter boat and just what I kind of do with it, and it's a lot of fun. So that's really a cool deal with those guys to kind of see them and
Oh yeah.
and they get to do that. So I think it's a fun experience with those guys. So I'm excited. For me this week, I'm actually in Shepherdville, Kentucky. And so the listener know that's in the shadows of Churchill Downs, Louisville, Kentucky. I'm getting ready for the Kentucky Derby. And you say, what does that have to do? So believe it or not, my brother-in-law is actually one of the big horse trainers. He has horse in the Oaks and the Derby. But last year when I actually picked up my Skeeter, I actually stayed in Arkansas at Hot Springs right there, and the Skeeter dealership was literally like, it's like at his house is right there at the racetrack, is like 2 miles from Oaklawn Racetrack, which is what the qualifying race is for the Derby. And so I was going to tell Chris, I'd tell the story since we are Derby week and everybody you'll see on NBC and everything like that this week. I got to take my first trip since I retired from the Army, go north, and I talk a lot about going smallmouth fishing. I had the best time of my life. So they invite me up to Saratoga Springs. If you don't know anything about horse racing, but Saratoga Springs used to be where all the horse shows in the country were mainly done in the summertime until Keeneland was open, and now Keeneland has now become the biggest in the world here in Kentucky. So, but in the summertime, everybody goes to Saratoga Springs and they race up there. So he has a house up there. And so I'm just a good old retired lieutenant country boy from Alabama, right? So I go to Saratoga Springs with my Skeeter boat all wrapped up in Army bass anglers. And the funniest thing was, I can't tell you how many of these $1 million racehorse people wanted to take pictures with me and them. When I got up there, it was the best thing I'd ever seen. You get to New York and that's not what you think about, right?
Right.
It was hilarious. The number of people that came to the house that had meetings with my brother-in-law, that all they wanted to do was ask me about that boat and it's to talk about horse racing. And I thought, this is the last place I thought that conversation would ever be. So
that is cool.
So
that
yeah,
is very cool.
My Skeeter has gotten me to take and have some conversations with people I never thought I would get to have conversations with along the way. And you never realize it. It's a great product, a great boat. I know I'm always impressed with the way it rides.
Yeah.
I've always been with that, Yamaha on the back of it, it's been phenomenal. I mean, I'll tell the story. So I grew up, I had another brand engine growing up, 'cause that's just the way it was with my dad and everything else growing up. And I'll never forget till I got that first Yamaha on the back of that Skeeter. And I get asked all the time these days, I'm like, what's it like? I'm like, okay, truth is, it's the easiest planing out boater moat package I've ever ridden in my life. It's just something about how smooth it rolls. And I just feel like I'm not like pulling G's like
Well,
popping up.
you're right. You're right.
And it's that rapid planing system technology that you guys put into it in the back end, and it just it's up quick, but it doesn't even feel like it doesn't feel like that pressure to push you up quick. And I think you guys built a great boat, and it's a quality product. And I think everything that you guys do, from the technology to that, to making it feel like a family atmosphere, is what makes Skeeter a great company out there. And I think that's very important to the consumer out there.
I'm like you. I won't lie, right? I grew up in another brand of boat. I grew up in another brand of engine. And in 2013, I got my first Skeeter, and it was a 20i. And like I said earlier, bought it here off the showroom floor when I was at Rigid. And I'm like, I don't know about this Yamaha stuff. I don't. I've heard a lot of great things, right? Don't know much about it. I had known the folks at Skeeter, but they'd never been in one of the boats. And so I'm like, I can get in this boat. And I, it was already broken in when we picked it up. And so I get to take it home and go fishing, and took it back to Scottsboro, Alabama, and took it out on Lake Guntersville one day. And I'll never forget coming out of the back of Roseberry Creek. You've been there.
Oh yeah.
You come out of the back of Roseberry, and you have to run the buoys out.
Yeah.
And it's not a straight line. It's got a little curve to it. And I remember thinking, okay, it's running pretty good. It sounds good. It feels good. And I didn't even check up. I mean, I wasn't running fast, but I never checked up and went through those buoys. And I'm like, I made a harder right-hand turn to run back up the river toward Goose Pond. And I thought, like when I made the turn in the river channel right there at that big telephone pole, what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And that thing hooked and took off. I thought, oh, wow, okay, I got a little racehorse in me right here. And so I remember putting the foot to the pedal, or put my foot down, and kind of just playing with the trim a little bit, kind of getting used to it. Next thing you know is you're running 70 and you're not even thinking about it. And you don't even realize what you're doing. And every little thing you do in the wheel is very responsive. And so the longer I spent in the Skeeter with the Yamaha, and then when I left Rigid and I actually went to another company, and we were sponsored by another boat and motor brand. And I like you, I'm sure I've ridden in probably everything out there, but maybe one or two new ones, right? Ridden in a bunch, been in a bunch, experienced a bunch, and it never fails. When I got back into Skeeter a year and a half ago, and I borrowed a boat out of our loaner pool, and I remember putting it on Lake of the Pines and getting behind the wheel. I mean, well, heck, it was from the moment I hooked it up to the trailer or hooked it up to the truck, right? It just felt like home. And it's like, I'll never go back to another brand or another branded engine. Yamaha has never let me down. It's one thing about it. When I sit down, no matter if I fished 5 minutes, 5 hours, or 8 hours in one spot, when I sit down and turn the key, it's going to crank every time. I know it. And that boat's going to get me back. It doesn't matter. It was blowing 4-footers on Bob Sandlin 2 weeks ago, and we were fishing a little tournament. Shouldn't have been out there, but we were. And it's just, I got an FXR 21, and she eats those waves like for lunch. And it was just probably one of the best rides out there. I'm not saying it because I work here. I'm saying it because it's true. And, it's a sports car feel with a Cadillac ride. And it's probably, once it's funny, we have a new pro on the West Coast that fishes the elites, and I hired him this year, and he came out of another boat and motor package into a Skeeter. And I saw him at Lake Fork. I met him at Lake Fork for the first time for the elite. Talked to him on the phone, but hadn't been able to meet him or meet him in person. And I walked up to him, and he saw me, and I said, told him who I was, and I stuck my hand out to shake his hand, and he just hugged me. I said, dude, what's this about? He goes, why didn't you tell me what I used to run rode so bad? And I laughed. I said, well, I can't tell you that. I said, you got to experience it yourself. He goes, dude, I couldn't believe it the first time out in my Skeeter. So if you've never been in one, take a test ride. If you come to the owners tournament or you're in the Lake Fork area, the weekend of June 6th through the 9th, we're doing test rides the 6th and 7th of June there at Lake Fork Marina. Just take a test ride. They're free. If you're going to any of the Elite Series events this year, I know there's the next one's in South Carolina. There's 2 coming up in Alabama. Then they go north. But anytime you see a place for a Skeeter to test ride, take one. Experience it. You won't be sorry. It'll take 30 minutes, and it'll be the best 30 minutes you've ever spent on the water. I can assure you of that. If you're not anywhere close to one, call your dealer or visit your local dealer. Ask them for a test ride, right? And somebody there will take you out in one and show you what it's all about. And if you're serious about buying one, now's the time to do it. At the end of the month, we got some great rebates going on. Instant rebates come off the price of the boat immediately. And, it's a great time to be in a Skeeter. I can assure you of that. So.
Well, yeah. Hey, Chris, I appreciate you spending time with me. I enjoyed it. I think you guys do a lot of great stuff. We enjoy what you guys do for us, and not just us, but some of our partners, whether it's Patriot Sporting Challenge, the stuff you guys do with the Toby, the Texas Hold'em Bass Invitational, all things that we're part of. So it's great, and I appreciate it. Hey, if you guys want to know more about us, go to forceonforsttv.com. You can even get Skeeter Boats on our website too, so go check them out. We appreciate you guys listening. We'll see you next time. Cool?
Thanks for listening to the Force on Force podcast. Join us next time as we dive into more topics from the Force on Force Talk. For more information or to learn how to join the organization, visit our website at forceonforsttv.com.